A lot of headlines to get to this evening. We want to take you back to that breaking news out of Los Angeles. The Reiner family confirming tonight that Hollywood director and actor Rob Reiner and his wife were found dead in their Brentwood home in the LA area. Earlier this evening, police had confirmed that 2 people had been found dead in that home, but at the time they did not release their names. Police describing this case as an apparent homicide. A source tells NBC News that the couple was found with stab wounds. Reiner was born in the Bronx. He grew up in New Rochelle and then went on to direct major movies, including The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, and A Few Good Men. We are going to continue following this breaking story on Today in New York starting at 4:30 a.m. Thank you for staying with us tonight. I'm Rana Novini. Another big story we're following tonight is the shooting massacre in Australia targeting the Jewish community. Investigators say the Bondi Beach shooting happened as hundreds gathered to celebrate the first night of Hanukkah. The attack declared a terrorist incident as 15 people were shot and killed. Police saying the suspects are a father and son. Officers killed the 50-year-old father at the scene while the 24-year-old son is in critical condition at a hospital. News 4's Adam Harding has the latest on the investigation.
On the city's Upper East Side tonight, a sign of solidarity. Hundreds coming together to mark the first night of Hanukkah.
This is one of those nights when we need to be together.
It comes only hours after the deadly massacre in Australia at Sydney's Bondi Beach. At least 15 victims killed in what officials call an act of terror targeting the Jewish community.
We're all here gathered together, standing shoulder to shoulder with our brothers and sisters in Australia and demonstrating that the way that we respond to this adversity is by being prouder, more confident, more joyous.
Cell phone video shows the horror unfolding. Hundreds seen running from the popular beach as gunmen open fire. Among the victims, Rabbi Eli Schlanger, who has ties to Brooklyn's Crown Heights. His cousin writing on social media, he was truly an incredible guy. Authorities tonight identifying the accused shooters as a father and son. The 50-year-old father killed by police, the 24-year-old son now hospitalized.
An act of evil anti-Semitism, terrorism that has struck the heart of our nation.
Rabbi Menachem Creditor's brother-in-law is among the dozens injured. He received word of the attack overnight in New York.
Grazed in the back of his head by a bullet, he was wounded when he got up to look for his young daughters and my sister, his wife.
Anti-Semitism has no place in our city and our society.
The NYPD today assuring New Yorkers there are no known threats to any local events, but police this weekend out in force as families stand shoulder to shoulder celebrating the Jewish holiday.
We don't have a choice. We can't cower, we can't retreat, and this is really a message for all of civilization. And this is the message of the menorah on Hanukkah, that a little bit of light dispels a great deal of darkness.
Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani tonight saying in a statement, this attack is merely the latest, most horrifying iteration in a growing pattern of violence targeted at Jewish people across the world. Jewish New Yorkers tonight telling us they won't be intimidated and felt it important to stand together in unity. In the newsroom, I'm Adam Harding, News 4, New York.
Now to that major development in the mass shooting investigation at Brown University. In a late-night news conference, authorities say they are releasing the person of interest who had been detained in connection with that deadly shooting investigation. We have a number of late developments in this story. Chief Investigative Reporter Jonathan Deans tracking them all from our newsroom. Jonathan.
Rana, all day officials voiced confidence they had the major break they were looking for. They said they weren't looking for anyone else. They never officially named the person of interest. They never charged him. But as the investigation played out and their confidence grew, the name of the person did leak. Now officials say they are releasing him, that the evidence and leads they thought they had do not add up, and the Brown University shooting is very much considered unsolved. Law enforcement officials say they are releasing their person of interest.
We want to inform the community that that individual will shortly be released from Providence Police.
The mayor said there is no known ongoing direct threat, but officials are not saying if they have a lead suspect at this time.
Certainly there was some degree of evidence that pointed to this individual, But that evidence needed to be corroborated and confirmed. And over the last 24 hours, leading into just very, very recently, that evidence now points in a different direction.
The person of interest was taken into custody at the hotel in Coventry early Sunday morning, about 20 miles from the Brown University campus. No charges were ever filed. The police chief told NBC this earlier without naming him.
How confident are you that you have the suspect?
Oh, I'm pretty confident.
But other sources did name him, pointing out how at the search of the hotel, at least one gun was found. And the FBI director on social media suggested cell phone records placed the person near campus at the time of the shooting.
I think what is really unfortunate that this person's name was leaked to the public. It's hard to put that back in the bottle, okay? So we're going to proceed very carefully.
This is cell phone video of students sheltering in place, awaiting for police to arrive. Quickly. 2 students killed, 9 injured, 7 remain hospitalized.
And yet they showed courage and hope and gratitude for how this community has stood up for them and how the healthcare providers cared for them.
In Birmingham, Alabama, a church service for 1 student killed. For the family of a 2nd victim, a GoFundMe page. Friends and associates say 1 injured victim is from New York. Freshman Spencer Yang, a recent graduate of the Dalton School. Earlier, President Trump spoke from the White House.
To the 9 injured, get well fast, and to the families of those 2 that are no longer with us, I pay my deepest regards and respects from the United States of America.
Brown University announced all classes and exams for the end of the semester are canceled. As of now, the person in custody is set to be released with some field tests, scene tests done, and search warrants done. Law enforcement says there's not enough evidence now to prosecute anyone. The man again being released with questions as to where the actual shooting suspect is at this hour, very much ongoing. Rana.
Okay, major development there. Jonathan Deans with the latest. Jonathan, thank you. All right, we want to take a moment and talk about the weather with Storm Team 4. Snow that we saw today will not be melting anytime soon. It is frigid outside, and those wind chills are going to drop into the single digits. Let's bring in meteorologist Matt Brickman. Matt, we're going to need all of the layers tomorrow.
Absolutely, Ren. In fact, right now, 19 degrees, the coldest temperature we have seen so far this winter. Actually, still technically fall this December, and it is going to get colder before sunrise, which is still 7 hours away. Skies are clear, winds are cold. They're out of the northwest, 10 to 20 miles an hour, and that is already dropping that wind chill into the single digits. It feels like just 7 degrees here when we can do it on 2 hands. It's not great here in New York City. Even colder in Bridgeport and White Plains. I think these numbers will continue to slide into early tomorrow morning, starting the day probably close to what we see right now. Winds backing off a little bit by sunup. We will see some blue sky early in the day, but not a whole lot of warmth. Clouds come in by the afternoon. Wind chill settling around 20 degrees, and another cold night ahead of us tomorrow. But there are some dramatic changes by the end of the week. We've got 50s in the forecast and rain, not snow. We'll talk more about the timing of that coming up in a few minutes, Rana.
Okay, Matt, thank you. A search continues in Brooklyn tonight. The gunman who shot 6 teenagers outside of a Sweet 16 party are on the run. Police say they don't have a clear motive at this point, but they do believe the shooting was gang-related. News 4's Axel Tercios updates us on the investigation from Brookdale Hospital.
Rana, 4 of the teenagers who were shot were brought here to Brookdale Hospital in Brooklyn, and they are recovering. We obtained surveillance video that shows the horror when shots were fired. Chaos unfolding. A group of people running to save their lives as multiple shots are fired at them.
6 teenagers between the ages of 15 and 17 were tragically struck by gunfire.
Police say the shooting happened outside this venue that was hosting a Sweet 16 party in Brooklyn.
So the cops there, when I look, I was like, wow, what's going on over there?
The NYPD says 2 men arrived outside of the venue just past 1 early Sunday morning.
Both individuals displayed firearms and discharged multiple rounds toward a crowd gathered outside of the venue.
This surveillance video obtained by News 4 shows the terrifying moments.
Como 20 y pico de tiros.
This man who lives in front of the venue telling us in Spanish he woke up to the sound of shots.
Just in shock. Like six children, like that's bad. That's really bad.
In a statement posted on social media, the venue's management said the shooting happened outside their business and after the party ended.
When you think about it, 6 babies were shot in Brooklyn overnight while attending a Sweet 16. And it just tells us how our continuous effort to remove illegal guns off our streets have a crucial role in the city.
The 6 victims are recovering in local hospitals. In Brooklyn, I'm Axel Tercios, News 4 New York.
Still ahead for us, honoring first responders involved in a historic fire at a synagogue in New Jersey. Plus, it was a white Christmas for kids who celebrated the holiday a little early. Kids battling cancer treated to a special visit from the NYPD and Santa Claus. It was an especially poignant Hanukkah celebration tonight in Rutherford, New Jersey. Congregation Beth El Chabad honored the first responders who rushed to battle a raging fire that destroyed their historic synagogue back in August. A giant menorah was lit in the parking lot of the congregation's temporary home at nearby Felician University. The rabbi praised what he called the miracle that everyone survived that fire 4 months ago. The cause of the fire has not been determined. Today, the holiday spirit was alive and well in Central Park. The Candle Lighters New York City charity, along with the NYPD, organized a Christmas party in Central Park for families of children who are battling cancer. Santa Claus himself was there spreading holiday cheer. And these kids, not just from this area, they're from all around the globe. They also got to enjoy some gifts donated by FAO Schwartz. The snowfall today in the tri-state was picture perfect in a lot of areas. This is a neighborhood in Ronkonkoma on Long Island. Got quite a bit of snow there. The snow is going to stick around. It's going to be on the ground tomorrow as these bitter cold temperatures are going to keep it from melting at least for a couple of days here, Matt.
Yeah, we've actually kind of got a dangerous setup because we melted some of that snow with salt and the other treatments, but now the air is so cold in a lot of spots that those treatments don't work, and what melted has refrozen. So you're going to run into ice on sidewalks, on your driveway, on the roads over the next couple of mornings. So just be extra cautious for slick conditions as we head into that morning commute tomorrow and then later this week as well. This is another spot out in Long Island. EarthCam giving us a shot here out in Stony Brook. They've got their own treats. Pretty nice. I think ours is better. We do have that bitter chill into tomorrow morning already, feeling like the single digits. More of the same to start on Tuesday. We'll stay icy at least to the first half of the week, but big changes by the end of the week that will melt a lot of this snow that EarthCam's giving us a good look at right now out in Stony Brook. By the way, Long Island led the way. 8.5 inches of snow in Comac, Shirley, with over 8 inches down the Jersey Shore. Similar numbers in Howell and Freehold, over 8 inches there. And in the city, final number from Central Park, just shy of 3 inches. You doubled that, though, in Staten Island, 6 inches of snow. With the cold and the snow, people are feeling festive. And I mean, I wouldn't want to be skating tonight in this cold, but plenty of folks are still doing it. We're at 19. The dry air and those strong winds giving us the wind chill down in the single digits and enough of a breeze through the night tonight and into tomorrow morning to keep us uncomfortable through the day on Monday. I do think we will start with our wind chills in the single digits. Right now, feels like 7 by tomorrow morning. Could be even lower. So that's where we start the day on Monday. By the afternoon, winds let up a little bit, but still feeling like the teens, low 20s if we're lucky. And we might actually bring more snow back into the mix. Sun to start tomorrow, clouds by the afternoon, but let's roll this through the evening. This is not going to be inches of snow, but flurries, a snow shower, maybe enough to kind of freshen up what we've got out there by later on Monday evening. And then by Tuesday, we're starting to see things warm up. Back to, or at least close to freezing Tuesday, back near normal on Wednesday, and then we're doing some melting end of the week here. Thursday into Friday, temperatures climb above average for the first significant stretch of time so far this month, and it comes with rain. Thursday night into Friday, You know, the spots that got 6, 7, 8 inches of rain, that's not going to go away. But we could melt our snow here in New York City by the end of the week. And then we get back to making ice as we head towards the official start of winter, the solstice coming as we got a week from today, next Sunday, December 21st, the official beginning. But I'm going to feel every bit of winter tomorrow morning, even though we're not official just yet with the cold and the snow on the ground. Back to you, Rana.
The Spectrum Sports Desk is presented by Spectrum. It's internet, mobile, and streaming TV, all from one place. It's only everything.
All right, let's talk some sports. Giants want to attack these last 4 games of the season, but when you're 2-11, things will happen that remind everyone why you are 2-11. Case in point, special teams. Lately, nothing special about it for the Giants. They trailed Washington by 6 just before the half, but they let Jalen Lane sneak through punt coverage and outrace everybody 63 yards for a score. Big Blue trailed 22-7 in the third. Jackson Dart puts the ball where Tyrone Tracy Jr. can make a play on it. This is a great throw and even better catch. It's an 18-yard touchdown pass, and the Giants are right back at it. Dart threw for 2 scores. Tracy ran for another. But again, the Giants are 2-11. And a defense that gives up big plays, it's a big reason why. In the fourth, Terry McLaurin has the secondary all turned around. It's a 51-yard touchdown from Marcus Mariota. Commanders up 29-14. Still, Giants had a chance thanks to an Abdul Carter fumble recovery. But on 4th down, Dart can't find Wan'Dale Robinson. 29-21. Giants fall. Let's talk about the Jets. Undrafted rookie Brady Cook gets the start. Went about as well as you would expect. Jags score on the game's opening drive. They had touchdowns on their first 3 possessions, and they never stopped scoring from there. Trevor Lawrence accounted for 6 touchdowns, including this 45-yard screen pass to Travis Etienne. Tackling was optional, 48-20 at this point. Cook did give it the old college try, but he was sacked 3 times. He was picked off 3 times, and the Jets fall to 3-11, 48-20. All right, that's sports. Rana, back to you.
Thank you so much. We'll be right back.
Welcome into Sports Final as we put a bow on another typical NFL Sunday around here. Jets down to an undrafted rookie at quarterback, and let's just say it went about how you figured it would go. Meanwhile, on a day they were favorites, the Giants were just not quite good enough at home against a division rival. It's a theme in the Joe Schoen era, one that might have only weeks left. Pat Leonard of the Daily News here to talk Big Blue, and the Mets have had a week. Pete Alonso's in Baltimore, Edwin Diaz left for L.A., and David Stearns retools, reworks, remakes the Mets. The plan is what exactly? Will Salmon of The Athletic, on top of that, joins us tonight to talk some baseball. So let's get right to it. Starting with the news of the day, this week's Sports Final headlines presented by Nissan. Figure 8, Jackson Dart and the Giants spiral is on loop as they lose their 8th game in a row to the Commanders, 29-21 at MetLife, dropping to 2-12 on the year. Duval Downer. Trevor Lawrence torches the Jets with 330 yards passing and 5 touchdowns. The Jags blow out Gang Green in Jacksonville, 48-20. Jets are now 3-11. Bucking the trend. 9 Nets players score in double figures as Brooklyn blows out the Bucks at Barclays Center, 127-82. Nets are playing tough basketball lately. At Nissan, we make cars that thrill. Experience the thrill for yourself today. Shop nissanusa.com. All right, well, the Giants didn't quit, but for the 8th straight game, the Giants didn't win. In this 29-21 loss to Washington, the Giants showed you everything you really expected to see from a 2-win team in Week 15. Not good enough, not talented enough, and ultimately not giving up their hold on the #1 overall pick of the 2026 NFL Draft. Let's bring it to Pat Leonard of the Daily News, who was out there taking this one in. Pat, I am so sick and tired of talking about draft order, not just with the Giants, but with the Jets. But here we are, once again, talking about draft order and losing games late in the season being beneficial for this team.
Yeah, the futility continues, and the Giants do have some positives on the field in flashes.
Yeah.
But, John, they just can't make plays when it counts.
No,
they can't make on any side of the ball.
But there were some positives out there. I told myself I was going to be positive with this Giants team today. And there were some things. Look, Jackson Dart, I think that second half was very important for him because he did not play well in the first half, but he showed you something in that second half, specifically no quit.
For sure. And I think it's not a coincidence that when he started running more, he started to become more effective. It's an interesting trajectory he's on right now because clearly they're trying to develop him more as a pocket passer to keep him safe and on the field, and also accentuate, develop his passing ability down the field. But clearly his athleticism and his mobility is part of what makes him great. So when he uses it, he's better, the offense looks better, but it also puts him at risk and creates some other situations for him to deal with, like he also dealt with today at the goal line.
And you can tell just hearing it from him, he's trying to work his way through it, right? He's trying to figure out, because he knows that he's got to be careful out there. And he knows that the team and his coaching staff want him to be careful out there. But he also knows the kind of player he was at Ole Miss, the kind of player he's always been. And I would imagine it's hard to try and rein that in.
Yeah, no, I empathize with him in the sense that I feel like he's being asked to be the savior, then they're putting conditions on how to be their savior. It's like, hey, go win us this game, but don't put your body on the line too much. But hey, on this play, can you dive and get the first down? You know, for Dart, he knows one way. It's to stick his nose in there, be aggressive, and be the leader. He said today, I want the ball in my hands. I'm comfortable with the ball in my hands. So now they have to find a way to make this work going into the future where you're using the best of him, but it's not in the back of his mind, I have to avoid being evaluated for a concussion the next time I touch the ball. Right now, his name nationally is synonymous with the concussion issue. He's got to get away from that.
And we saw that again in the first half.
Right.
It's, what, the 5th time that he has been evaluated for a concussion. He still plays a physical style of football, and, you know, 9 carries, 63 yards today, 246 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. It's the kind of day you would like, ideally, from Jackson Dart, but I don't know if it's sustainable the way he plays if it continues to get evaluated.
Right, it's interesting. Like when Brian Daboll was here, you saw a lot of different quarterbacks come through: DeVito, Locke, Daniel Jones, Tyrod Taylor, all these guys who had flashes of effectiveness, but what was the common thread? They all were running and putting their bodies at risk and eventually going down and getting hurt. They couldn't keep quarterbacks on the field. And that's what you kind of saw with Dart under Daboll now. So that's what the Giants are trying to mold him into, more of a pocket passer who runs rather than a runner who throws. And the question is, can they make him that? Or do you just let him be himself and build the team around that?
Well, you have to build around him because you can't have Darius Slayton out there dropping whoopee touchdowns all the time. And he needs more talent around him. But again, trying to be positive today. You see Jackson Dart, you see Abdul Carter. Those are 2 first-round picks from last year that are delivering. Abdul Carter played, I mean, clearly his best game as a rookie so far. And it was a bit of a wake-up game for him, right? I mean, he's been enduring heavy criticism. He needed a game like this.
Yeah, 7 tackles, a sack, I think 2 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery.
He was everywhere.
In the clutch, I might add.
Big time play.
What I liked about what they did today is, though, even though he converted at Penn State from off-ball linebacker to edge, and they drafted him as an edge, I think he's better right now as a linebacker who blitzes when he rushes the passer. You saw today, he's so athletic on the inside, he causes a lot of havoc and disruption there.
How much do you think he took those 2 benchings and the criticism that ensued because of it to heart?
He definitely has. I think it took him a little longer than you would like it to, in part because he spent so many weeks getting away with it, right? So, and I don't blame a young player for, let's say they do something wrong, they show up late to a meeting. If the consequences aren't severe enough, it tells them they can do it again. So I think once Mike Kafka took over and the Giants started handling this differently from a disciplinary standpoint, it still took Abdul a week or 2 to get it right and say, here's the habits I need to start developing.
To be
great. We saw something to come to fruition here, you know?
Yeah, for 1 week, as Dexter Lawrence pointed out, for 1 week.
It's one little
very
game.
telling that his teammates they're just, you know, they're going to keep riding him to make sure he stays on track. But Mike Kafka did a good thing there in terms of disciplining him. There's been some other questions with Kafka as he's auditioning here for the head coaching job.
Yeah, it's tough because Mike's trying his best. I think he's a good play caller and X's and O's guy, but I just think he's in over his head. I think anyone on this staff who inherited this when Daboll got fired would have been.
It's a tough spot.
Yeah, it's a tough spot, but, you know, from some of the ways he's handled things publicly to in game today, for example, I thought that early challenge was a rash decision of the first down. It was too early. They lose a timeout there. And then there was a play late third quarter, 3rd and 20. Instead of trying to get a first down, he runs the ball to try to kick a field goal, doesn't realize that they're running out of time. The field flips to the worst side with the worst wind.
That was bad.
Younghoe Koo with like a 51-yarder that he almost hit me up in the press box with that kick.
Yeah.
And that's just bad game management, and you can't have that. But, you know, Kafka's auditioning, I would say, well for an offensive coordinator role somewhere, but he's not going to be the Giants' next head coach.
Okay. Who will be the Giants' next head coach? That's the big question.
Ooh, that's a great question.
And, I mean, does Joe Schoen play a part in making that decision? Because I'll be honest, look, it feels like we are getting towards the end here, the final few weeks of Joe Schoen as general manager.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's no reason to keep him as a general manager past tomorrow. Like, I think Monday he should be fired. I think he should have already been fired. I think if the Giants didn't watch these 2 games without Daboll against New England, which was a no-show, and against Washington here, and they still think they should wait any longer, I don't know what they're looking at. As far as whether he'll be involved in the coaching search, he is at the moment. That's his job. He's getting paid to do it, to help that. But I think you actually risk this job looking like a good job if you retain him, if you waffle, if the coaching candidates think there's a chance you're still going to retain this general manager who's 5-26 in his last 31 games, who's 5-18-1 in division. They just got swept back-to-back years by the Washington football team, Commanders, whatever you want to call them, for the first time since 1982 and 83.
Cannot have that if
so
the Giants.
Who is going to be their coach? That could be determined in part by whether Joe's involved.
Right.
I think Lou Anarumo, who I named right off the bat the day Daboll got fired, he's a candidate. I think regardless should be whether Joe is or not, even though he and Joe are close. Clint Kubiak from Seattle, the offensive coordinator, is a name to watch. And then, very interestingly, these college names, Marcus Freeman, Jeff Hafley, the former BC coach, is now the Packers defensive coordinator. Yep. Those are some of the names really rising up to the top of most likely to land this job.
Okay. Joe Schoen is adamant. I mean, you pressed him a couple weeks ago at his State of the Giants bye-week press conference that there's talent here, that this is an attractive job, and they have a lot of good pieces to work with. But, you know, they're going to have another high draft pick. That's clear. We know that.
Right, exactly. And that, you know, the problem, I think, you look at today, and I know when anybody watches a football game, generally you're watching the offense and the defense most of the time. Special teams is when you go get a sandwich. But from a roster building standpoint, it's a good microcosm of how much they've struggled under Schoen to build a roster. They've had 4 years. Their kicking, punting, and coverage units are among the worst in football, and they've all happened, you know, you hear the conversations about bad coaching, X's and O's, a mistake here, we didn't drill enough discipline there. What about the fact that you've had 4 years to get better players, to have a kicker who's not a replacement who can't make a field goal?
Do you want Joe Schoen making that, if you have the #1 pick, and they're in line right now for the #1 pick in the draft, do you want Joe Schoen making that pick? That's the question that the Giants have to ask. As you see that Giants-Raiders showdown,
wow,
that's coming up. That's, you know, that'll be for the #1 pick. Titans in the mix there. Browns, Jets, the usual suspects at the top of the draft.
Yeah, I mean,
not where you want to be.
That's got to be the only remaining possible win for the Giants against the Raiders, in my opinion. I mean, you think about Washington came in today, 8-game losing streak, had been shut out 31-0 on the road by the Minnesota Vikings. They were hopeless. Yeah. Backup quarterback, practice squatters playing corner. And they made the Giants look ridiculous. Like, Washington can't believe it. They're going home like, hey, can we play them again next week?
Right.
You know?
Giants were favored in this game. All right. Pat Leonard, Daily News. Sorry you had to sit through it today, but we appreciate you coming by.
We're positive
to talk some Giants.
It's positive.
There's stuff to work with. Pat Leonard. Check him out at the Daily News and, of course, on the Talkin' Ball podcast. He's got a fresh one that just posted on today's game against Washington. Pat Leonard breaks it all down for you on all things Giants football. Thanks, Pat. Coming up next, we will hit the hot topic of the week, the New York Mets, with Will Salmon of The Athletic. He joins me on the latest with this polarizing Mets off season. We'll break it all down. But first, it is the Spectrum Speedy Connection of the week. And Saturday at MSG, this blistering one-timer from JT Miller in overtime, capping a Rangers comeback over the Canadians. They were down 3 goals in this game. They rallied all the way back. And the one-timer from the dot seals it. That helped the Blue Shirts snap a 3-game skid. Chris Kreider and the Ducks. Cride's coming back to the Garden in town on Monday night. Speedy Connection is presented by Spectrum. It's internet, mobile, and streaming TV, all from one place. It's only everything. Mets fans, you good? Never mind. I know the answer to that. You've had better weeks, that's for sure. Watching Edwin Diaz and Pete Alonso sign elsewhere on back-to-back days, that's not easily something that you recover from. But forget you. How will David Stearns and the Mets recover from this? That's the big question. And you know, if there's been a common theme to this Mets offseason, it's the phrase, as first reported by Will Salmon. He covers the Mets beat for The Athletic and baseball and joins us here tonight. And I know it's been a busy, busy week coming off the winter meetings for you, so I appreciate you taking time to talk with us here about all things Mets. And it has been a thing this offseason, Will. It has been a week to forget from the fans' perspective at the very least. But I got to believe David Stearns has a plan here, right?
Yes, I would say so. What that plan is and how things materialize, not quite sure. But yes, I think that this is going probably in a way that may be expected on some ends. I actually thought that the Mets would end up re-signing Edwin Diaz. I was not surprised that they ended up not being the team for Pete Alonso. Yeah. So in some ways, I feel like it actually has gone the way that maybe the front office for the Mets thought was a possibility. I don't know if they're completely caught off guard by this. I think that would be a stretch here. It had to be something that they were comfortable with, clearly, because Pete Alonso's market, for instance, got to the point where they didn't even bother to offer Pete Alonso a contract to come back. So clearly, I would say that this front office does care what fans think, but they're not going to be, their decision making is not going to be colored by that. They're going to try to make the best decisions possible in their view to make the Mets a good team.
Part of that new look is something you alluded to on Friday on SNY and Baseball Night New York. Jorge Polanco as a replacement for, replacement is not the right word, I think, because it's not a one-for-one. You know, Pete Alonso is in some ways an irreplaceable player, but bringing in Jorge Polanco, a guy that can work at first base and DH, I guess. A guy that's got power in his bat. How does he fit with this team?
Well, I think you nailed it right there, where I don't think it's a one-for-one either. And I don't think, to your point, that you could really replace Pete Alonso effectively with just one guy because he just offers that special elite right-handed power that Mets fans know, and I don't need to drag on about it. But with Polanco, I guess he's part of like the aggregate in what they're trying to make up for offensively, especially with Pete Alonso. This is a guy that can play a little bit of everywhere on the infield, but for the Mets, he's going to be playing a position that he has never logged a single inning for at the major league level. So that is interesting in itself because David Stearns, the Mets president of baseball operations, has really talked up defense and, in his phrase, run prevention. And lo and behold, he has brought in somebody to play the majority of first base who has never played first base before.
It's still a hard sell to fans that this is your replacement plan going forward. So there's got to be more to this equation. How aggressively do they attack the trade market here?
Well, that's where I'm looking at first, really, because I think with starting pitching especially, I would argue that the Mets really do need that frontline starter for this rotation. They could certainly use just quality innings or steady innings because of their inability last season to really pitch beyond the 5th inning of games, but I look at it as you kind of need both for this club because they don't really have that true number one guy.
If you're going to look for a frontline starter, you might as well start with the Detroit Tigers and Tarek Skubal. And, you know, that's a thing you have to weigh. Do you trade now for him? Do you give up the massive amount in return that Detroit's going to be looking for? Or do you wait out until he becomes a free agent? What do you think in terms of Tarek Skubal and the Mets' level of interest here?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one, and I actually think it starts with the Tigers' level of interest, too, because they have not said publicly, hey, we're not going to trade this guy. And I feel like that's kind of telling, right? Because you could just really tell all these Tiger fans who are worried about this and saying to themselves, well, we really shouldn't be doing this because we're a playoff team. You could tell all those fans, like, hey, we're not doing this, don't worry. They haven't done that, and I feel like that's probably telling, and that's probably informing us that they're at least listening for offers, and they're trying to make that call. If I'm the Mets, I do it actually, because I just feel like that's such a necessity. It would require, though, parting with some serious parts of your farm system.
All right, as far as the actual roster as it's constructed with the Mets right now, your two big names, Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto. There's been some reports that maybe there was friction between those two stars. Juan Soto addressed that today, was asked by reporters and on a podcast as well about his relationship with Francisco Lindor. He said, we're good. He has a lot of respect for Lindor. He said he's happy in the clubhouse. He's always cheerful, and he's a tremendous talent and ball player as well as person. What do you make of this? Is this a smoke fire situation here with these two, or are they good?
Well, it's something that should be monitored at the very least, just because, like, when you have so much reporting on this type of topic, there's probably something to it. Now, how big that's something, it's probably debatable, and it depends probably on who you ask, maybe. Publicly, these guys are going to say all the right things, most likely. They've at least done that so far. Privately, like, look, I don't think that these guys were or are necessarily the best of friends, but, like, you don't really have to be in every clubhouse, right? Like, you don't have to pal around with all 25 guys on the roster or even your co-superstar to be a good team. So I would say that this clubhouse, it was okay. I don't think it was anything that was crazy bad or really that great, obviously, but I don't think it doomed them to the point where this was why the Mets ended up the way that they ended up. The Mets ended up with a disappointing, pretty much disastrous season because they really had no pitching. Their defense wasn't very good, and their offense was very inconsistent. There was a lot of on-the-field issues for the New York Mets that are a lot more important or had a lot more to do with their wins and losses than whatever was occurring or not occurring in their clubhouse.
So we're moving on. What the Mets do, I do know this. You got to have a breaking news alert on your phone for Will Salmon when and if and when that news comes down, because I know you're going to be on top of it. Thanks so much, Will.
Take care. Thanks for having me.
All right, that's Will Salmon all over the Mets and Major League Baseball for The Athletic, and you can also, of course, catch him regularly on SNY. As we go to break, it's time for the forward drive of the game. Saturday night, Las Vegas, Jalen Brunson and the Knicks put on an absolute offensive show against the Magic in the NBA Cup semis. The Knicks captain had 40 points and 8 assists, and New York rolled 132 to 120. And they will face Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs for the NBA Cup title on Tuesday night. Drive of the Game is brought to you by your local Ford stores for current offers.